Over on Jaguar Gator 8, a new college football video is out. In this video, we talk about the 2000 Pac-10 season between Oregon, Oregon State, and Washington, and how the conference broke the tie for first place in the dumbest way possible. Click the card in the upper right corner to watch. And now, on with our feature presentation. If you've ever been to a Super Bowl party before, odds are you've played boxes or squares. If you haven't, here's a brief rundown of how the game works. You write your name in a box on a 10x10 grid, meaning that there are 100 boxes available, and you pay a predetermined amount of dollars to do that. Then, once all the boxes are filled, numbers are drawn, which correspond to the 10 possible digits that a team's score can end in, going from 0 to 9. At the end of each quarter, whoever's name is in the matching score wins the money, which is usually about 20% per quarter and 40% for the final score. As an example, if the Eagles and Bills play in the Super Bowl, and after the first quarter of the game, the Bills lead at 10-7, then whoever has the 0 box for the Bills and the 7 box for the Eagles would win. The catch with all of this, however, is that you have no idea when you put your name in a box which number it's going to be. Which raises the question, what's your strategy? Well, most people have one of two strategies. Option 1 is to just randomly put your name in a box and hope for the best. But option 2 is way riskier, but could be way more beneficial. Option 2 is to put all your eggs in one basket, and put all of your entries in one row or one column. Now on one hand, this strategy could be incredible. If you put all 5 of your entries in one column, and that column happens to come up with a number like 0, 3, 4, or 7, then you're in a great spot. You're walking away with something. However, if you do that, and the column comes up with the number 2 or 5 or 9, then you just threw away all your money. It's a bold strategy. Do you spread it out, or do you maximize your chances at one possible outcome, and cross your fingers that the desired outcome occurs? Well, even though this video isn't about Super Bowl boxes or squares, I bring that up to get you thinking about what your strategy would be. Except instead of tossing in $10 for a box, try tossing in millions upon millions of dollars for a Super Bowl advertising campaign. Because at this game right here that you've been watching this whole time, Super Bowl XXIX between the San Francisco 49ers and the San Diego Chargers, the folks over at Honda wanted to advertise for the big game. And their strategy was incredibly bold and had the potential to be genius if it worked out. They were going to stack all of their ads back to back to back and hope for the best. Instead, it backfired in rather spectacular fashion. Because this is the story behind Honda's failed advertising campaign at Super Bowl XXIX, and what might just be, considering the circumstances, the riskiest advertising campaign in Super Bowl history. Before I talk about the strategy in question and what Honda was planning on doing, we need some context to understand why Honda wanted to even advertise at the Super Bowl in the first place. Now, as you're watching through some of these ads from previous Super Bowls before this game in 1995, Honda was no stranger to the big game. They had done advertising campaigns before, and were familiar with the territory. They ran an advertisement at Super Bowl XXVII, 2 years before this game, for the Honda Prelude, keeping it incredibly simple there and just showing the car driving. At Super Bowl XXV in 1991, they aired a whopping 6 advertisements, meaning that since an advertisement costs $800,000 for 30 seconds, they spent upwards of $4.8 million on their campaign just for the airspace, between ads for the Honda Civic, the Honda Accord, and the Honda CRX. And they aired some ads in 1987 for Super Bowl XXI, including the Honda Accord and the Honda Hurricane. Basically, Honda had experience with the Super Bowl. They knew what they were doing, and their advertising campaigns were led by the great Jerry Rubin, who was in the Advertising Hall of Fame and had been running ad campaigns for Honda for years. Which raises the question, why did Honda want to advertise at this Super Bowl in particular? Why Super Bowl XXIX? Why male models? Well, the reason for that was because they were looking to get into the minivan business and reinvent themselves in some way. And the best way to reintroduce themselves to the world and introduce a brand new car was through the power of Super Bowl advertising. Just as Apple unveiled Macintosh during Super Bowl XVIII, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner, if you unveil a brand new product during the Super Bowl and you run a great advertising campaign, you're absolutely set when it comes to awareness. And in December of 1994, Honda started selling their all-new car, the Honda Odyssey. However, despite the car going on sale in December, no advertising would start until January, with the major push coming at Super Bowl XXIX. And selling the Odyssey was no surefire thing. On one hand, the Odyssey got great reviews. It was hailed by many as the next generation minivan. It passed all safety and emissions standards, and was equipped with everything you could ask for in a car at the time and then some, including air conditioning in the front and the rear, cruise control, 4 speakers with an AM/FM stereo cassette, a digital clock, 6 beverage holders, a sunroof, and 4 doors with a revolutionary third seat that folds to provide additional cargo space, so you don't have to lift out the third seat. As Dick Oliver, the senior vice president for Honda's automobile sales division, said on this car, Honda buyers expect a fully equipped vehicle, and that's what they'll get in the Odyssey, at a very competitive, comparably equipped price. On the other hand, despite what Oliver said, the Odyssey was expensive, especially when compared to other comparable minivans, like the Mercury Villager, which was $19,600. The Odyssey was upwards of $25,000, and that didn't include destination charges. So a good advertising campaign could go a long way to convince people that this wasn't your typical minivan, and that this car was different and good enough to warrant that significantly higher price. That's when Honda got to work. They decided to buy not 1, not 2, but 3 spots at the Super Bowl, one of which was for the Honda del Sol, and the other 2 of which were for the all-new Odyssey. And to say that Honda went all out on this campaign would be an understatement, because they pulled out all the stops to try and get this campaign to work. In an undisclosed amount, they got a license to use the famous and iconic art of this man right here, the late great Keith Haring, for the advertisement. His art is iconic, and it makes complete sense why Honda wanted his art in their advertisements, since his art was family-friendly, and minivans are family-friendly cars. As Jerry Rubin, who created this ad for Honda, said on the importance of Haring's artwork in the ad, the characters are relevant as symbolic reference points for a minivan. Now this might be a bit confusing, seeing as part of the messaging that Honda was trying to get across with this campaign was that the Odyssey was closer to a car than it was to a minivan, since its audience feared being stereotyped as the traditional minivan moms. But this was the game plan that they were going with. They had the wheels in motion since May, and the moment they got the license from Haring's estate to use his art, it was go time. Even so far as getting actor Jack Lemmon, a 2-time Academy Award winner for his work as a supporting actor in Mr. Roberts at the 1956 ceremony, and for his work as the main actor in Save the Tiger at the 1974 ceremony, to narrate the ads. They had the campaign lined up, even setting up a print ad to run in USA Today on Monday, the day after the Super Bowl, setting up a toll-free number to let people call and learn more about the Odyssey, giving their dealers football-based decorations, and having their dealers receive a video message from Al Michaels of all people. While we don't have any footage of that tape, we assume he called that advertisement with more energy than Riley Patterson's game-winning field goal against the Chargers in this past wildcard weekend. Now there was one question left. When are we going to air the ads? Again, you've got 3 ad spots, 2 of which are for the Odyssey, and 1 of which is for the Del Sol. Conventional wisdom would say to spread them out. Air 1 ad in the first quarter, 1 in the second, and 1 in the third. By doing this, you have a chance to get more people hooked on your ad, since there are some people who can't watch the first half, but will watch the second half, and vice versa. Plus, you reduce your risk tremendously if the game turns out to be terrible. Many people aren't watching or paying attention in the second half when the game is a rout, but they are in the first half, so even if 1 ad flops, at least you get 1 where people are watching. On top of that, because Keith Haring was an incredibly unique artist with an extremely distinct style that no other advertiser can copy, since they don't have the license, you don't necessarily have to worry about your ad being caught in the clutter. The style and the imagery of it are so unique that it stands out no matter where you place it. However, as you could probably tell, that's not what Honda decided to do. Far from it, in fact. If they did that, then it would be a non-story, because that's just about what every advertiser does. Because for Super Bowl XXIX, Honda decided to air all 3 of their ads, which cost $3 million total just for the airspace, and $20 million in terms of the entire campaign, back to back to back. You were getting 3 separate ads all right next to each other. For 90 uninterrupted seconds of the broadcast, the Super Bowl was nothing but Honda. And they decided to do this for the 2-minute warning in the 4th quarter. In other words, this entire $20 million ad campaign was banking on the fact that the Super Bowl would be a good game. The ratings are at their highest point with 2 minutes left if the game is good, which makes a ton of sense. No one's leaving their TV screens to go to the bathroom with 2 minutes left, in fear that they will miss an important play. Heck, Honda saw this firsthand when they advertised at Super Bowl XXV, which was a 1-point game, came right down to the wire, and was widely regarded at that time as the greatest Super Bowl ever played. As a side note, to learn more about an advertising campaign that ran during that game, click the card in the upper right corner. If you have a great game with 2 minutes to go, you have the entire country tuned into your ad, and watching on the edge of their seats. For 90 seconds in a row, you have the country's undivided attention. However, there is a massive downside to this, and that is the fact that if the game is terrible, the ratings are at their absolute lowest during the 2-minute warning, which also makes sense. It's getting late in the night, and with the game practically over, people leave parties and say their goodbyes, or they'll leave the bar to beat the traffic, or they'll go to the bathroom so that they can get out when the clock hits triple zeros. Fans of the losing team might even turn off the game by that point, so as not to see the other team celebrate. People will resort to doing other things, or might turn the game off altogether. If the game is a blowout, and the only thing left to do with 2 minutes left is to just wait around for the final whistle to sound, then you're airing your advertisements to a non-captive audience that couldn't care less, especially since they've already seen tons of ads during the game already. Putting all your eggs in the 2-minute warning spot is either the most genius move ever, or the dumbest move ever, and it's entirely dependent on how the game is going. You're either going to have the advertisement that everybody's talking about, or you're going to have the advertisement that nobody's watching. So with that being said, let's watch exactly as this played out in real time on January 29th, 1995, with 2 minutes to go at Super Bowl XXIX, and see how this all worked out, with Honda buying literally all of the ad space in that commercial break.
Just because you grew up, got a job, got married, and had a family, doesn't mean you have to get one of those, Introducing Odyssey. With 4 doors and an easy fold-away rear seat, it's not just a minivan, it's a Honda.
Uh-oh.
What is it?
Nothing. Excuse me.
Don't you just love the wind through your hair?
What I have left.
Ah, the joys of a minivan. That big sliding door, the heavy removable third seat, and those rear windows that don't roll down. Oh, what could be better? Introducing Odyssey. With 4 doors and an easy fold-away rear seat, it's not just a minivan, it's a Honda.
Two minutes to go. The 49ers on top, 49-26.
Well, crap. That didn't work out at all now, did it? With 2 minutes left, the San Francisco 49ers were on top 49-26, and it was even worse than that, seeing as the Niners led it 42-10 at one point in the second half, and with 2:30 left, led it 49-18. This game was ugly with a capital U, and if you want to learn more about how this turned out, you can do so by clicking the card in the upper right corner. Of course, Honda picked the one Super Bowl where one team was favored by 19 points to win, as the Niners were heavy favorites in a game that many consider to be the biggest Super Bowl mismatch of all time. Nothing about this game was particularly close. Steve Young had arguably the greatest game by any quarterback in Super Bowl history, throwing 6 touchdowns and no interceptions. The Chargers turned the ball over 3 times compared to none for the Niners, and no one in San Diego's secondary had any answers for Jerry Rice, who had 10 catches for 149 yards and 3 touchdowns. At no point, not for 1 millisecond, did he ever think the Chargers had a chance to win this one. It was that bad. And because of that, Honda's gamble absolutely backfired, as the ratings dropped off dramatically over the final few minutes of the contest, when it was never in doubt. Now, to be fair to Honda, again, they knew exactly what they were getting into. They knew the rules of the game, and they knew that this was a massive gamble on their end. And as Jerry Rubin said, we would have preferred that it was a close game, but those are the chances you take. But obviously, this gamble did not work out. Not at all. You might say that the Chargers were the biggest losers of Super Bowl XXIX, and I wouldn't disagree with you there. They got absolutely curb-stomped and embarrassed in their only appearance ever in the big game. But the only organization on this day that might have had it even worse was Honda, because they threw $3 million in airspace and $20 million in an advertising campaign down the drain on arguably the least competitive Super Bowl of all time. Because on this day in 1995, it was not a happy Honda day at all. Get your official Jaguar Gator 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, and subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL Trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at Jaguar Gator 9. To see college football videos, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. So you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.